Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillahi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in wa ba'd. So we're continuing on, and this is lesson number 21 in the explanation of the Believer's Handbook for Qur'an Memorization. And inshallah, today we'll be starting from page 48, and we'll start on action number 3. So as we talked about before, that these are all the different actions now that you have to do on a regular basis. Not regular because, again, it's not like a habit, but these are kind of sort of habits because these are actions that you want to do, but you want to get in the habit of doing them, even if it's for a period of time. So action number 3 is talking about listening to the Qur'an, because obviously you have different ways of memorization. You have the visual, like actually seeing something, and then you have the audio, which is of hearing something. So, all of these different senses, they need to be, how can I say, they need to be worked in any way that you can. When you're memorizing the Quran, you have to see it, you have to hear it, and also as you're going to see, you also have to write it. So all three of these actions are the most important actions in the memorization, and not just memorization. I mean, because obviously you can memorize the Quran without listening to it, and you can memorize the Quran without looking at it and only listening to it. But however, we're talking about memorizing it in a way that it's stamped, where it's like it's stamped in your mind, and it's something that you don't forget easily. So this is the most important thing. So I said I have already mentioned this previously, but I will give some detail here that was not given the first time I mentioned it. First of all, you need to find a reciter that you really jibe with. You want a reciter that recites in a way that you wish to imitate, and someone who recites in a correct manner. You do not want to listen to a reciter with a beautiful voice that breaks multiple rules of tajweed constantly. All right, and that's regardless, because sometimes you might hear a reciter, and that reciter might have a beautiful voice, but makes a lot of mistakes as far as the tajweed. Is very lackadaisical about the rules of tajweed in the recitation. Or you might have a person, for example, that has a very beautiful voice, but doesn't recite in the manner that you recite. So, for example, I love Husari. Al-Husari, I love to listen to Al-Husari. However, I don't recite like I don't even recite anywhere near him. I like to recite, when I recite the Quran, I recite in a faster manner. I was just everything that I've always done whenever I memorize it, I always memorize it and always recite it in a faster manner. So when I find that when I sit down and listen to the reciters who recite a little bit faster, and that's why even with Al-Husari, I listen to him, but I listen to his quicker recitation, not his slower recitations. So I mean, Al-Husari is the one that I listen to on a regular basis. But he has different styles of recitation. And there was one recitation where he recited faster, but he still maintained the rules of tajweed. So that's what you want to look at. You want to look at number one, the person obeying those rules. And two, the person reciting in the same manner, in a manner that you can mimic or imitate. So this is of the utmost importance. All right, then I went on to say you should stick to with one reciter for the time being. In fact, you should keep one reciter that you listen to, and one mushaf that you read from. This will help to etch the Quran into your mind. You will find that when you constantly, oh my God, I'm tongue twisters today, huh? Constantly listen to one reciter, the person's voice gets stuck in your head. You will be reading Quran and Salat while the person's voice is playing in your mind. If you read from one mushaf, you will find that you can visualize the page in front of you when you are reading in the Salat. And this is very important. It's not necessary, I guess, to say that you have to listen to one reciter for the entire mushaf. All right, so let me clarify this because, for example, I mentioned previously in this lesson, I love to listen to Al-Husari. But there are certain surahs that I love to listen to from Al-Ajmi. So, for example, Al-Ajmi, I can't listen to him as far as the entire mushaf. I can't do it. But his Surah Al-Baqarah, Surah Ali Imran, Surah Al-Rum, Surah Al-Luqman, Surah Al-Sajda, and I wouldn't want to say Surah Al-Ahzab, but I was probably stopped at Surah Al-Sajda. These surahs, they're for me the most beautiful. Like his recitation is just something that I like. So when I'm taking and so what I'll do, for example, I have all the MP3s for Al-Husari for the entire Mus'haf. I'll put it into a different folder and I will delete those. Like for example, Surah Al-Baqarah, Surah Al Imran, Surah Al-Rum, Surah Al-Luqman, Surah Al-Sajda, and Surah Al-Ahzab. I'll delete those and I'll replace them with Al-Ajmis. And then you got Al-Minshawi. Al-Minshawi, my favorite surahs from Al-Minshawi are, let me see, Surah Al-Rahman, Surah Al-Waqi'ah, and Surah Al-Hadid. So like those three, when I listen to those from Al-Minshawi, just the most beautiful for me, you know. So I'll replace those also. So I have like this mixture, but it's mostly going to be Al-Husari. Some, also I like to listen to Muhammad Ayub. The problem with Muhammad Ayub is I can't mimic and impersonate him, but I just like to listen to that just to, just to listen to it, not for the purpose of memorization. So I might throw in a couple of surahs from Muhammad Ayub also. So it's like a mixture, but like if I'm listening to Surah Al-Sajda, I'm only going to listen to it from Al-Ajmi. That's it. I'm not going to say, well, let me see how this person recites. No, that's it. That's how I'm going to. So that way, when I'm like, I'm in Salah, I can hear, like the audio playing in my head while I'm reciting in Salah or even outside of Salah. So like the next ayah is actually coming into my mind in Al-Ajmi's voice. It's like I can hear the audio is like playing in my mind. So, and then the same thing that I mentioned with the Mus'haf, that you have one style of Mus'haf. You don't, you have all these different types of, because, the script, the writing, it differs. And the amount that's on one page differs from different types of Mus'hafs. So you have to get one and stick with that one. And so what I do is I buy, I find like a Mus'haf, like this is the style of Mus'haf that I like. I buy the large one, the medium one, and the regular and the small one. They're like the regular size one and the small one. So the small one's the one that I take with me wherever I go. The medium one and the large one, I kind of just keep around the house and read them. But the small one is the one that I'll take with me when I'm memorizing outside. So this way, but it's all the same Mus'haf. It's all the exact same. In fact, I get them all of them are the same color. So like my original Mus'haf that I've had with me since maybe 2010. So I've had this Mus'haf for 15 years. It was red. So when I go and get the other Mus'haf, the same style, I also make them red. So this way that there's no, everything's just the same. And so when I'm picking up this Mus'haf, I'm already, it's just khalas. I got the image of the other one in my head. And this way, like I mentioned in here, is that when you're reciting in the Salat, you can literally, especially if you've read that page 300, 400, 500 times or more, you can just picture it. You can see it right there in front of you. You can have this visual of the page, and you can literally see like the ayah that you're reading, like it's like highlighted as you read it. So you can be able to, and this is very important. If you're reading from different types of Musahib, you might damage that ability. And it's better, like the best advice. And this is advice that I've gotten from so many different shuyukh and students of knowledge is always just keep one Mus'haf, one style of this one Mus'haf, and that's it. Like I said, I've had the same Mus'haf for 15 years. So Allah Mustaan. All right, then I said I would advise you to listen to the Qur'an whenever you get a chance and you cannot read. If you're driving in the car, working out, cleaning the house, or going to sleep, have something from the Qur'an playing. I would also advise you to play the juz that you are memorizing at night when you are going to bed. Make this the last thing you listen to before you fall asleep. I take one juz at a time and put it on repeat, so it is the last thing I hear before I sleep and the first thing I hear when I wake up. And this is obviously it's about just hearing it, because you're focusing on the reading, taking that one page and reading it over and over and over again. but also utilize the time when you can't read. Just take that juice and just listen to it wherever you go. You'll find that a lot of surahs you might even memorize them just from hearing them over and over. I knew one brother, he used to, every time that he got in his car and drove anywhere, he used to play Surah to Yusuf, and he memorized Surah to Yusuf just from driving around in the car, because that's the only surah that he would play. If he was driving and it was like, for example, he was driving for a long time, it just repeats. He just like the surah finished, it repeated, and he'll keep listening to it until he got to wherever he was going. That's how he memorized it. I had it memorized at one point. I got to revise it, but I had it memorized the same way. I used to have to go out in Yemen and take a bus every day. So whenever I would walk out, or a taxi or a bus, so in the morning I would as I was walking out to go get the taxi, I would sit there and listen to Surah to Yusuf from specifically from Faris al-Abad. Don't ask why. Don't ask why. I had one recitation from, I can to this day I cannot find that recitation that I had of him. But that specific one, I can find, obviously Faris al-Abad is, you can find it YouTube, you can find it all over the place. But this specific recitation, I have not found it again. And I just memorized it. Like I kept like and this was a long time ago. And then I just kept listening to it every time that I walked out the house. I had like this little MP3 with headphones, and I'd have that playing. And it just got to the point I'd be standing out there waiting for the bus or waiting for a taxi, and I'd be sitting there just reciting the whole, reciting the surah with them. Just all that just from listening to it. So it's very important. I mean, and it brings so much ease to the memorization just by doing this, because if you have that juice, specifically the whole juice plan that you're trying to memorize, well, it depends like where you're memorizing from. Obviously, if you're memorizing from like the 28th juz or the 27th juz, so you got like multiple surahs in that juz. So you're memorizing this surah right now, but you're hearing this other one every single day. So what happens now when you start to memorize those that you've been listening to every day, but you haven't been, well, actually you have been reading them, because again, if you follow the plan that I'm laying out here, is that you'll be reading that juz every single night. So you will be reading it once a night, and you will be listening to it every single day. And if you're working out, or if you're going out for a jog, or maybe just bike riding, maybe you got like a stationary bike or a treadmill at home, and you get on the bike or you get on the treadmill, put the headphones on, and or just whatever, your laptop with some speakers or whatever helps you, and just play that juice. In fact, make it to where like I'm gonna run for the length of this juice, or I'm gonna get on the stationary bike and ride the bike on a certain level until this juice is finished, and do this every single day. So, I mean, these types of things are beneficial ways that you can get that in. If you're riding a bus, like me personally, if I'm on the bus, I prefer to read. I don't like to listen to anything. So like, I'll listen to stuff like back in those days, I would listen while I was just like I said, walking, because I had to walk out a certain distance just to get to wherever the buses were or the taxis were, and this was in Sana'a. But if I'm on the bus or in the taxi or whatever, I read. I don't. But if I'm driving, that's a different thing. And this is what I'm saying. If you're a driver, you're driving, then khalas, just have it playing every single day. I mean, that's all you listen to. Force yourself to only listen to that. Force yourself, you can go and you can read the tafsir of certain ayat, and while you're listening to it, you pondering those ayat. I mean, this is important. I mean, this is the best way. If you don't want to do that, I mean, you could even take the surah that you're memorizing and just put that on repeat and just listen to it over and over and over and over again. However you want to do it, whatever, it's all beneficial. Then I said, for the other activities, I would advise you to use the time to listen to the Qur'an from beginning to end. If you exercise every day, listen to one juz of the Qur'an while you are exercising. You will finish listening to the entire Qur'an once a month. If you are reading the entire Qur'an once a month also, it will not be long before you find memorization a breeze, inshallah. If you drive back and forth to work every day, you can also use that time to listen to more of the Qur'an. You might be able to finish the Qur'an every 15 days if you listen to it in those times. I do not generally listen to Qur'an when I'm cleaning the house, because I prefer to revise during that time. I like to test myself to see if I can read without making mistakes while doing other activities. If I can wash dishes and read the juz without making a mistake, that means I truly memorize it. But again, it's up to you, you know. So if you're the type of person who likes to clean and do other things or cook and listen to the Quran, hey, listen to it as much as you can. Listen to the because if we really took account, and this is a sad reality for all of us, if we really took account to the stuff that we listen to, if you're talking about podcasts, YouTube videos, or little reels or whatever on different social media platforms, and you see how much time we spend on useless garbage. It's like a person will sit down and listen to, for example, like motivational speeches, self-development speeches, or speech about leadership for an hour or 2 hours, but can't listen to the Quran for that same amount of time. And there's no better book, and there's nothing better that you can listen to for self-development, leadership, and all that than the Quran. The Quran is for everything. It's for everything that we're going to need to succeed in this life and the next is in the Quran. And we succeed through the obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this life and the next life. And everything is detailed in the Quran. Everything is there. And if it's not detailed, like if it doesn't go into detail, it goes into detail in the Sunnah. So you're going to get everything. And like Riyadh al-Salihin is a handbook on leadership. If a person actually read it with the correct understanding, because like Riyadh al-Salihin is telling you this is how a leader is going to be inside and outside, because every single Muslim has his portion of leadership. Kullukum ra'in wa kullukum mas'ulun an ra'iyatihi. All of you are like a ra'in, like a shepherd, and all of you will be held accountable for your flock and the people under your control, the people under your authority. So everybody, every Muslim, every human being is always going to be in some form of leadership role. Maybe not at work, but in his house. If he's the man of the house, then he comes to the house and he's the leader of the house, and he has to function as a leader. There's nothing better. Quran and Sunnah, that's the best way. But people waste so much time listening to time management videos or podcasts and self-development stuff. And I was one of those people. I got into that stuff heavily, where I would listen to it and read the books and everything. I went through that type of phase. And yes, there's good and there's bad. But where the good, everything that's good in it, you're going to find it in the Quran and the Sunnah. I never ever heard anything that these kuffar mentioned in any of these types of self-development, audios or books, podcasts or whatever, or speeches and talks. I've never heard them mention anything that was really good, that really hit, that I didn't already know from the Quran and the Sunnah. So again, your Riyadh al-Salihin is like, if you want like the leadership manual, like this is the way that a leader should be inside and out. That's the book that's what you want to read. You have the Quran and you listen to the Quran. And if you're listening to the Quran with tadabbur, all of us would do that, then we'd benefit. We'd get everything, because you look at the people from the past and they look at the Salaf and how successful they were. They didn't have all this time management books and podcasts and all that. They had the Quran and the Sunnah. And that's what they benefited from. And that's what we also need to benefit from. So Allahumma musta'an. And then I said in the end, again, I cannot stress the importance of only listening to one reciter. I know it sounds difficult, but the reward for doing so trumps the difficulty. Because again, everything about success is repetition. It's repetition. The people who love, like a tadawwuq, they like to taste all the flavors of everything. These people, they never, ever settle on anything. And then their success that they find is very, very limited and is very, very temporary. If you want success that's like lasting and it's going to remain with you, then it's just about taking this thing and doing it. It's all repetition, like memorization of the Qur'an. You got to get up and you're going to read that page over and over and over and over again. You're going to listen to it. You're going to revise it. You're going to read the tafsir for it. And you're going to get up the next day and do it again. And then you get up the next day and do it again until you're finished. And then once you're finished, now you're going to say, okay, well, now I want to do Bulugh Maram, I want to do Riyadh al-Salihin, and you're going to start the process all over again. But it's all repetition. The more you constantly with that repetition of listening to it, and again, keeping the same reciter, because that voice, you want that voice, the voice of that reciter, you want it stuck in your head, just like you want the page stuck in your head from reading it so much. And this way, this assists you a lot. Like when you get caught, where you start to fumble, and you're like, oh, what's the next ayat? And that you can hear it. You can literally hear that reciter saying it. The next ayat is just popping up in your head because you listened to it so much, you read it so much. So this is no doubt. This is the most important thing. You stick with one mushaf and you stick with one reciter. Like I mentioned previously, it doesn't have to be the same reciter for every surah, but it has to be the same reciter. Like, I'm only going to listen to this reciter for these surah, and I'm only going to listen to this reciter for these surah, and then just keep it like that. And then inshallah, you'll see the benefit just with the patience and hard work and consistency. Allah musta'an. Wa ila huna subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik.